welcome to Flat Earth Early Bird number 135. I'm your host, Arwin. And today, it's not so sunny, but yeah, it's kind of nice and warm, or average temperature. A bit cloudy here and there, but it's okay. So, how are you guys all doing? Jazzaconda in chat. Laurel G. L. Jewish? Or L. Hewish? Hewitts, right? Is that it? Laurel G. L. Hewitts? Anyway. Hello, Bill G. Fuck yous. DJ Adagio. Good to see you guys. Let's see. What happened yesterday? Let me remind myself. Oh yeah, there was a bit of Glowbusters. Was kind of interesting yesterday, and oh yeah, there was a horror sheet show with GM Truth TV. It was funny. It was kind of good. Yeah, I've seen the guy before. I think he even went on Patricia's or something, or I saw him somewhere else. I don't know. I don't remember where it was. But yeah, that was kind of fun and interesting. Hello, Chocolate Saiyan, Karen B. Yeah, I should start keeping notes these days because I'm just too distracted on average to keep a clear overview in that sense. My cognitive abilities and my focus is not that good currently, but it'll get better, I'm pretty sure of it. Hello, the Shadow Cat. But yeah, it was kind of interesting. I'm basically digging for new inspiration, for new interesting material to focus on, and I got myself on the back panel of Jose's hangout yesterday. Pretty much was going even during my show. Was trying to compete with me, but yeah, I didn't get on his live show, I think. But afterwards, yeah, there was a panel full of ballers, like completely filled up with ballers. I got in there. It was also Jose is using another type of panel. It's like the other type of Google Hangouts panel thing, where you don't have the ability to get in the back chat. I think, I'm not entirely sure. It works differently, and yeah, didn't have any trouble basically getting sound from other people. So that type of panel seems to be working. I need to figure out how to work this, and then if I use that type of Google Hangouts panel, then I might still be able to continue using Google Hangouts instead of purely relying on Skype. But anyway, I was in there, and yeah, I got the usual baller crap. Seriously, like Tommy was in there, Rumpus, George Netanyahu, Curved Water. It was full of pretty nasty figures, and they were all calling me stupid and retarded. And I eventually started ignoring that and just kind of using the situation with all these ballers and their wider view on statistics and things to basically ask, yeah, about certain knowledges that they, of course, use for massive presuppositional reasoning. But still, it was interesting, and we, what is it again? Yeah, the cesium clock came up. Like, and the funny thing was, like 20 years ago, this also came up, but it never really stuck too much. So they basically reminded me about old knowledge and how the cesium clock is completely unaffected by any type of forces, really. Doesn't need to be reset like scales whenever you change something. And there was some detail about it. It was weird. I don't know how to interpret it just yet, but it's kind of another interesting factoid about how this world seems to work. And that is that, aside from their assumption that, of course, on the ISS they have this cesium clock, and in satellites they use it, and but the thing was that apparently the cesium clock registers a different speed of time, and the higher you go up, the more time seems to speed up. And now they say, oh, it's because of the lack of gravity. And by the way, the amount that the clock seems to differentiate, even though persistent, apparently is so incredibly low that, if I remember this correctly, they said that on the ISS, on that distance, supposedly there's like a 1/1,000,000th of a second difference or something. It was incredibly low. So I immediately said, yeah, that's kind of insignificant. But since these clocks are so incredibly accurate, these type of deviations in time sensing seems to be pretty persistent, so they claim. So I was thinking, yeah, it's pretty interesting, just as data, that, okay, this separate device that's really not influenced because it's based on radioactivity can measure a slight time difference as you go up. So I asked them, has this thing ever been taken down really deep? What's the greatest depth this clock has been taken? And was there a slowdown actually of time? And they didn't really have a clear, straightforward answer. Said, we're not encyclopedias, but it is kind of interesting to me, because if that is there, then they of course will assume it's because of gravity and Einsteinian logic. But taking that aside, if this is happening, if this is another factor, another registered measured data, as it were, just like the angular relations of the heavenly bodies in relation to the position of the Earth, you got some new raw data that could point to a lot of things, a lot of different things. It's part of the setting of this world, apparently. And I'm just curious, like, why? What's behind this? Because I think that the gravity concept is wildly elaborate and, not really a good solution as to why this time differential is happening so persistently. So what is going on there? And I even suggested, could it be that because of some high electrical field up there, that perhaps this cesium clock could, or the radioactive material of cesium would be influenced by some kind of high static field? But they said, no, that's not possible. It's completely uninfluenced by any kind of electrical field passing through it or anything. But I don't know. I was really like testing them as like a student. It's something I typically like to do. Just keep on asking really complex questions and really test the limits of their knowledge, and not their assumptions, but of their knowledge. And I think that they eventually kind of lost track. But yeah, it is interesting. If is that really going on? Is there a time differential, however slight, and what causes that? What could potentially cause that? So yeah, I got a little inspired. Hey, hello, sleeping warrior. Yeah, you were on there as well. I thought you were doing an incredible job considering the circumstances. So well done to that. It did get a bit messy, but yeah, can't blame you there. They just yeah, combined rumpusing forces, you know. Right. Well, Flatlander, look, time is measured by the stability of change. You could say that time can be measured by deduction of entropy constant. And, well, if radioactivity is not influenced in any way by any other force or influence, then, well, maybe time does actually change vertically over a distance somehow, because that's measured. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe the way time is experienced on the Earth is different. Maybe as you go down, time slows down, and as you go up, time speeds up, however little. Yeah, relatively, if you don't start assuming a vast universe of outer space, then there's not so much distance we could even take from the Earth, but the distance apparently that we can, slight time differences are being measured. Right. Well, it would be interesting to try and compare an actual chemical clock with the experience of time itself. But the problem is that the clock is just showing such a minute, insignificant deviation that, how could you even pick that up as an experience of time when we psychologically already have so many natural deviations in how we experience time just by our mood and by our focus. So but as a technicality, I find it kind of interesting. Yeah, I mostly just try to gather data and completely without presuppositions, and just have like a bag big bucket of Legos of raw data, of just things that just so happen to be here, and then not tie in all the explanations given, but just as raw data, and then try to figure things out with that, including that reflecting everything that I try to build in some kind of model concept to all that rough data somehow. Yeah. Anyway. Oh, good tips for all. Into musicable. Voynich. Youth. Juan Carlos. Yeah. Anyway, that was just a snippet of new data that caught my interest. I have to say that other than that, I don't get the feeling there's a lot of like really interesting new data coming out. It's almost funny because the ballers are so busy always trying to find more proof that their presuppositions are worth presupposing, reflecting upon all kinds of just data that have been used to reinforce the ghost armor of gravity, for one, of the aberration of gravity, all kinds of things where just raw data that has been done for, likely for devious purposes, just to help the presupposition and everything. They have gathered this data, and it's kind of interesting to just look at it. Even though they originally conjured it for malicious purposes, you could say, from a flat earther perspective, it is still data. And I just wonder, like, how much of this data do they have? And maybe, we can learn more about just the data of this world, how it works, to try and do something with. I don't know. Hello, Renty Flat Earth. Oh God, space herpes, so ridiculous. So Nathan, you're gonna start up a debate again today? Why are you asking Juan Carlos? Hello, that one guy, good to see you. Oh, yeah, and Truth Seeker Mafia. Daniel. Yeah, I was kind of surprised, Nathan. There was no ball busters yesterday. I would like to have the opportunity at some point to... Alright, don't want to compete with Glowbusters. Okay, that's... Right, you do it on Saturday. Good, okay, I'll try to remember. But yeah, I would love to be part of these shows. Just, like, on the back burner, or as soon as people start to go on about gravity, then I'll do my thing and get in the way. Start talking about aberrations and how it's not very wise to just outright ignore and try to erase gravity from everything. But yeah, I'll have to wait till Saturday. No, Daniel. Gravity is not a natural law like entropy. Gravity is a deduced concept based on several observations and make it highly suggestive for there to be a force disequilibrium present at all time as a constant, but it's an aberration. It's not a natural law. You could say it's a natural deducible anomaly. No, but an entropy is not a widely deducible anomaly because it is truly ever present. It's a part of the fabric of how things work. And that makes it a real law. Because you can't really disprove it. Well, with gravity you can. You can very easily replace it by a system that can actually be scientifically proven, and that's why it's not a law. I'm very sad to see the ballers like doubling down and piling on the mistakes concerning gravity. It'd be so much better if you just look into the Arwinian perspective on gravity and figure out what it is and what it is not. Where's Dank? I didn't see Dank in chat. Nathan? Where do you see Dank in chat? I don't see him anywhere. Oh! You are? I didn't know that. Okay. So fuck juice is formerly known as Dank, I guess. That's an odd question, Sabrina Browning. How come sometimes in the distance it looks like planes are traveling straight up and down? I don't recalling having ever seen anything like that. Usually when I see planes I just see them folding into the horizon till they become obstructed. So, higher above us, they seem to go more straight down, and then as they approach the horizon, they just start to go more horizontal, even though they are technically going in a straight line. So I never really see them go bending down in the far distance. I don't know why you claim you've seen that. I've never seen anything like that. Right. Yep. Yeah, Nathan's right. Mass attracting mass, that's a myth. That's a fairy tale. It's a mutation of the original gravity anomaly. The aberration. It's grafted on assumption to turn it into global lore. But that it doesn't exist. yeah, whatever causes the apparent force disequilibrium, apparent, I say, it's not mass attracting other mass. Okay. Right. And the funny thing is about the apparent force disequilibrium is that, yeah, it always applies to mass. That is what is susceptible to the apparent force disequilibrium. Or you could simply explain it by relative density, which functions much more scientifically. But that doesn't mean that inherently proves that is the cause, that mass actually causes this apparent force disequilibrium at all. It is merely the mass is the recipient of this effect. That is all. Stop being a stubborn dumbass, Daniel. It does work. Just this outright declaration that it doesn't, that's called denial. It's an emotional response. It does work. Ah, right, Daniel. Well, the thing is, it's not about force. It's only about the displacements. And I don't know if the necessary antecedent for displacement is a force. I don't know if that's a true statement. I'm pretty sure it doesn't. It's not. Relative density simply describes how the motion is coming into being, and that's what it's about. It's about proving the cause. And it does work. Look, Daniel, why wouldn't an object fall in a vacuum? Why wouldn't it? Its relative density compared to its surroundings is still the same. A vacuum chamber is also part of this world, even though there's no gas, no air friction to prohibit the speed of the falling. But it's still relative density at work. Doesn't matter if there's a vacuum surrounding it. I've never heard of electrons being susceptible to So any kind of force is similar to mass. As far as I'm concerned, electrons don't have any mass. So it's a weird statement saying that electrons don't fall in a vacuum. It's just weird. No, they don't, Daniel. I don't think electrons have mass, or negatrons, as they should be called actually. And I don't think photons or light in general has mass. I even dispute if photons are actually particles at all. And I could almost say the same thing for electrons. Is it really a particle? Or is it only an apparent particle when it is bound to protons and neutrons in the form of matter? It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous science fiction claims. Force to accelerate electrons. It's ridiculous. You should know better. Like electricity, forces don't influence electrons, basically. It doesn't at all. Right. Yeah, you can accelerate electrons in a particle accelerator because it's being pushed magnetically. It's very specific. There's no actual forces, except for magnetic influence. Look, and electrons are influenced by magnetism, very obviously. It's part of the effect. Right, well, magnetism may be a force to ferrous metals and to electric things, like even electrons, but it's very selective. You can't just say it is a force just like motion or displacement or anything else, because it only exerts a force on very specific things. It can only displace very specific things. So just because magnetism influences an electron or anything in that direction doesn't mean that you can equate that to force in general, the same force that applies to matter. It's not the same thing. Right, but the thing is, you even assume momentum. You assume literal speed. I just say, look, an electron is more like a separated electron is more like a strand or a field, part of a field, and magnetically that could be enhanced. But to say literal speed, No. Yeah, we measure it. Eh. So how did you measure it? Did you put a camera on it and then have these lines of distance and then see how the particle moves over that border, so we can then deduce the speed because that specific particle was measured at this time at this specific distance? Really? I highly doubt that that is how that worked, because yeah, if you could conjure up the actual observation of an electron, iron filings. Okay, well then mass is involved. If there's actual iron filings, then there's mass involved and not just electrons. Yeah, with Sawakan, this is a show where the host eats in front of you. It's a breakfast show. Again, you're simply assuming. You're assuming electrons and then you're imagining the bumping of electrons. These are all visualized conceptualizations of how the process dealing with these electrons is supposedly functioning. But there's no empirical confirmation of any of it. It's theorized that that is how it is through particle theory. And yeah, I say no. No, it's not particles. Right. Yeah. Well, it is energy, probably. Electrons are probably energy, but to assume that it is a particle, that is where the presuppositional thinking starts to set in with particle theory. Ah, look at that. Well said, Daniel. Without it, you just have basic confirmation bias in a completely paradoxical paradigm. That's right. Because that's what it is. Isn't that just amazing? Right. Sphere beliefs. And particle theory falls under that same. It's making everything into spheres. Or dots. Anything that is spherical, basically. Miniature or grand. It's the sphericalization of conceptualization itself. No, no, Daniel. The energy is actually the inherent force of pressure itself. It's the molecules bumping into each other, and these are actual molecules. You can actually confirm they are molecules. They're a complete set of matter in the gaseous form. And they do have this pressure that is a force. It is inherent to gas. And that can definitely be proven to be there. And there's not a limited amount of that energy at all. It is quite persistent. It doesn't run out. It's not like fuel. Gas pressure simply presses upon the rest of the gas, all of the gas, until an equilibrium has been found within the container. And that's not going to stop. It's not going to run out because the container is too big. It is going to evenly distribute until the equilibrium is met. And then eventually, once the equilibrium has been met, a gradient may set in due to apparent or actual forces that are naturally present, of which the container is a part. It's not limited at all, Daniel. That's really dumb thing to say. It's not a limited amount of energy. Yeah, that's right, Daniel, because relative density still applies. The apparent force disequilibrium constant is still present. What goes up must come down. Firing gas particles, that's a good one. But yeah, in a sense, you're correct. And that's why after a equilibrium has set in within the container, there will very likely form a gradient. Yeah, but Daniel, that's still assuming very blatantly that that process is being tried or done within a container. So there's already a gas pressure equilibrium having been reached and the gradient due to apparent or real other forces. But once a container is breached, then the gas pressure will redistribute itself very rapidly with a lot of power until a new equilibrium has been reached in the new container. That's not dogmatism. That is how it works. You can try to demonstrate it to yourself if you have several containers that can be pressure regulated and with ports towards one another. You can demonstrate exactly how that works. It's very quick. And then as soon as the equilibrium has been reached in the new total container, then the strong force of the expansion stops, and other effects set in, like, for example, a gradient. That's ridiculous. I didn't say that, Daniel. I didn't say gas will expand forever. It will expand forever until a new equilibrium has been reached in a container. And a container is per definition not forever. Okay. Well, Simon, Dan, you ask your question. Because Daniel's just going to keep on rambling as he does. No, Chocolate's saying Daniel is not a panelist. He's a keyboard warrior who does ask pretty decent questions. Sometimes when he's in the mood for it. But yeah, I don't see him as a panelist. So thanks for your input and questions, Daniel. It's good material to reflect upon, and yeah, thank you for that. See you later. Oh, that's interesting question, Simon Dan. The container, we don't know what is. What is the container? We just know that there has to be one. There has to be a limited confine in order for an equilibrium to be reached within the container, because that's a necessary antecedent. We don't know the dimensions of this container or how it functions. We just know that it has to be there, otherwise an equilibrium within the gas pressures, within this system, within this realm, could not have been reached at any point. Well, Daniel, look, I am not everyone, and people make a lot of mistakes, myself included at times. But yeah, I'm not selective on physics at all. I just try to take away a lot of base assumptions that have become part of it, like the overparticleization, particle theory in everything. That's what I try to dispel. So no, Daniel, don't go there. That necessary. It is gas pressure, loss of entropy. Don't go pedantic on me. Right. Okay, Simon, then. What is your other questions? No, Daniel, it's not dogma. You're being an ass. Stop it. So what is your question, Simon, Dan? Right. Well, Daniel, technically a container could also be made of theoretical force fields or anything, but anything that would emulate or copy this entire setup of what would be a physical container, okay? Is that optional enough? It's still gonna basically be a physical container anyway. Fuck you, Simon Dan. I have no credentials, okay? Piss off. I don't give a shit about credentials. I just learn as I go. I've went over all of this stuff a lot, even in the past. Screw your credentials, man. No, Daniel. No, it could not. How many times do I have to tell you this? Gravity cannot be the cause of a container. It cannot, because it is a steady force disequilibrium. And even if you assume all the ball gravity, everything globe related about gravity, if you assume all of it, it can't do it. It's a very steady but faint force. That's even admitted in scientism circles. It's part of the freaking consensus that you rest upon. Okay? It can't do it. It can only slightly push back. And as the distance to the Earth increases, the amount of push that it can exert becomes smaller. While gas pressure within the container, which supposedly is going to be outer space, yeah, it's not going to decrease in power. It's going to keep on pushing to all sides until an equilibrium has been reached. And in that sense, that power cannot be it cannot be stopped. It cannot be stopped without something that is seriously powerful. And gravity officially is not strong enough to do it. It's one of the biggest holes in the entire model. Even if you freaking assume it all, then mathematically it doesn't freaking work. Okay, I've tried to defend that concept. Don't be a retard. Don't lie about the actual math of the entire presuppositional system. Gravity is not strong enough to prevent the gases from escaping the atmosphere and finding an equilibrium within the total container of the imagined outer space universe. It just doesn't. It doesn't. Stop lying. Stop lying, Daniel. I've had a really interesting conversation so far, but if you insist on this, then you just piss off. Because it's not true. And you can't say, look, at a higher altitude, the pressure is lower. Yeah, we know the gradient. The gradient, that can only set in after an equilibrium has been reached. There is no flow. There is no flow, which means the equilibrium has already been reached. Otherwise, it would be escaping, right? As you can demonstrate in gas pressure systems, in containers and a vacuum and everything. It's not strong enough to do it. If there's actual release into a vacuum, gravity is never strong enough to stop that, because it is considered officially by science standards as a weak force. Good. Piss off then. Because if you're going to claim at any point, again, that gravity, the assumed force and everything is strong enough to keep in the entropy force that is part of the nature of gas, then you're just wrong. It's a lie. It's not strong enough. It's a very basic, low-down force constant, even assumed to be that, and that can't be strong enough to prevent the gas from expanding within the container of outer space universe. Can never do that, unless there's theorized a force barrier at some point. Even science fiction speculated this. And it's not even taken on. Because people are just too retarded to realize that officially gravity is not strong enough to prevent gas pressure from escaping the surface of the Earth into the open outer space container. It can never do that. Can never ever do that. Can never be strong enough to prevent the escape of the gas pressure. Because it's just a push. It's not a grab, it's a push. Pushes. Or pulls, or however you want to see it. It's not grabbing it. It's not actually stopping it. So it's going to be slowed down at best. And with the might it would have as it tries to find an equilibrium in the outer space container, it's going to be insignificant amount of force compared to how quick that gas pressure would escape. Just model it out. It's true. Yeah, I'm not interested in your heating utility repair skills, Simon, then. How do dance? That's funny. That's a good one. Graham Brown. How do dense things and people know which direction to fall? Well, they don't. There's no sentience or knowledge or insight. They just go where they will find their relative density level. They'll just go. There's no knowledge involved. Why do they fall down? Because, well, the greater density level tends to be there, down there. That's just how it happens to have arranged itself. Right, well, that's because that lower density stuff below the heavier object is only in the way of more density down there. It's useless. Look, relative density, it does work out. It's really annoying. I find it kind of annoying, but it does work out. It doesn't answer everything, though. It was just there. It's just there to give an actual scientific proof anchor. That's all. There is nothing pulling an object. It's simply displacing to find a level. I don't need to say anything. I know what gravity is and what it's not. Probably more than most of you, ballers and flat earthers. So, it's not bollocks. I haven't got a clue, mate. Well, that's time for you to go. Piss off, dude. Just fuck off. So, yeah, I'm gonna round out the show. It was kind of fun. I liked having some good questions and some people actually sparring. That's good. I want more of that. It's better than just hanging around. I hope my audience enjoyed it as well. Maybe you learned something. Maybe I refreshed certain details about technicalities of the setup of this world. And if I have, then it's all good. So thank you all for coming. Even the trolls. And yeah, upvote my video if you liked it, and downvote it if you're a troll or a baller or whatever. I don't really care. A vote is a vote. And yeah, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and hit the bell notification so you can see when I'm going live, which can be early. Today I went 25 minutes early in anticipation of Nathan starting up sooner, and he's already, I think he started up, yeah. So, yeah, if you want to be part of this panel sometime, add me on Skype, and I'll get you on the show as a panelist. It would be nice, although, yeah, as long as you guys keep really active in chat and ask good questions, that's perfectly fine by me. Oh yeah, Obermukkel, hashtag Mifa, indeed. And yeah, if you want to help me out financially and help progress this show, please donate to my super chat sometimes. Or yeah, donate to my PayPal. Will be very helpful. And I'm doing pretty good right now, so it's no hurry. Although I still have to get that ticket to the Amsterdam Flat Earth Conference, which I definitely plan to visit. I meet a lot of people. It'll be funny. It'll be cool. So yeah, I will be back tomorrow with Flat Earth Early Bird number 136. And until that time, keep it flat.